Hi, I am here on behalf of my team, Peiying Wu, Ruiqing, and myself, Jake Chen. We are going to present our global analytics competition case, which is on global electricity level and renewable energy analysis by country. Fossil fuels are among the essential energy sources that we have right now. Since the start of human existence, we have been reliant on fossil fuels to fuel our machines and our processes. However, fossil fuels are not a sustainable source of energy. Neither are they a clean source of energy. It is because of this that we chose to focus on clean and renewable energies. Hopefully, by investing in clean and renewable energies, we can fix the energy deficit problem that many countries in the world have. We chose to target solar, wind, and hydro energy producers, as these three forms of renewable energies are the most accessible to everyone in the world. There are other forms of renewable technology, however, they aren't as accessible to everyone in the world, and we chose to exclude them. Our main plan is to focus on a few main producers to maximize the efficiency of energy production throughout the world. And by doing this, we hope to present a recommendation for producing energy through renewable sources. Our data comes from United Nations Database, EIA, World Bank, and BP Oil Industry Company. We first process the raw data files through Excel before putting them into Tableau to form our charts. For the analysis flowchart, we first looked at global electricity level before going to surplus and deficit, from which we got the top countries that produced renewable energies. From there, we drilled down into individual sources of energy of hydro, solar, and wind, and we formed a recommendation for the top producers in each category. In this chart, we are mapping electricity price with surplus and deficit in 2016. We initially thought that this would form a very good correlation. However, when we plotted it on the scatter plot, we found that the correlation is very weak. It is for this reason we chose to plot net generation and surplus deficit, which is another factor that we thought would work very well. When we plotted it on a scatter plot, we found that it had a very strong positive correlation, and because of that, we chose to focus on these countries and their net generation of power.
We also mapped out the accessibility of electricity by country. Blue represents to the countries that have 100% access to electricity power, and red represents to the country that currently doesn't have fully access to electricity. With the technology developed over the decades, more and more countries have reached to fully access to electricity in 2016. However, majority countries in Africa and some countries in South America and some countries in Asia still doesn't. On the right table, we get the data from production and consumption of electricity power in 2016. By subtracting each other, we can get the amount of surplus and deficit by country in the unit of gigawatt hours. Blue represents to the surplus and red represents to the deficit. In compare with the accessibility table on the left, we find out that some countries that already have surplus in electricity power, while their entire population still not have fully access to electricity power. Let me point out India as an example. In 2016, India have huge surplus in electricity power, while there are around 15% of population still have no access to electricity power. Let's also investigate into the surplus and deficit table by country in detail. We can see that the top 5 countries have surplus are China, United States, India, Canada, and Russia. We also want to point out Mozambique, which is a country that has largest surplus in low-income country, and we will look into the country later in detail. We also have the table with the deficit in electricity power of 2016. Most of them are from Africa, while surprisingly, Finland also has a deficit in electricity power. In this graph, we plotted the electricity capacity of the 4 countries that we chose against their electricity generation statistics throughout 16 years. Within these 4 countries, China, India, and the United States currently have a higher capacity than their generation. In addition to that, the capacity graph follows a slightly exponential curve, meaning that their capacity has been increasing at a faster rate than the previous years. As these countries are also the countries with the highest surplus of energy, they have been proven to have the ability to add extra capacity over time to produce for other countries. In the moving dot line chart, we plotted the electricity generation and the capacity of each energy we analyzed based on the countries. From the movement of the dots, we can see China has developed hydropower for the longest time, and it has the largest growth rate of all 3 technologies from 2000 to 2016. In the contrast, India has a much lower percentage of usage of their electricity capacity, and Mozambique is even lower. Till 2016, Mozambique still did not have the electricity generation from the wind energy. We get the data for the amount of electricity that's generated by renewable energy, which are hydropower, solar, and wind, and divided the amount of electricity generation by the capacity of each renewable energy, and represents the results as percentage of capacity in the amount of generation. Over the years, we found that almost every country could be able to use solar energy in an almost 100% of their capacity. However, from the previous chart, it is showing that countries started to develop hydropower in very first place. Its usage is not satisfied as we expected. In the chart at the right, we can see the percentage of capacity in generation in each country individually. China has the highest generation and capacity with hydropower. For the US, even though they have the lowest amount generation and capacity comparing with other 2 technologies it has, the US had used almost the full capacity of solar power, which we can see from the left chart. India has almost the same condition as the US, with the highest percentage of usage in solar as well. As for Mozambique, they only developed the hydropower and solar energy, so we are not able to judge the performance of wind energy. Finally, we reached to our recommendation to those countries. For United States, we made the suggestion that they can make both investments in hydropower and solar power. For China, we suggested that they can invest one specific power, which is hydropower. For the India, we think they can strengthen the construction of infrastructure and let every household has access to the electricity power first. Then they can also make investment in solar power as well. For Mozambique, till now, we still think they can buy the electricity power from other countries, but they can make other investment in the future. Thank you.